Hello, everyone, and welcome to the HealthyX Sundays podcast, where we bring you the most critical and actionable content in the nutrition and fitness space. Dave from Mind Muscle Pro and I, Kunal Jain, also known as Veg Diet Coach, are your hosts. Today, we are joined by Dr. Anshul Sadhale, a medical doctor turned fitness and nutrition coach, and the mind behind the 100-gram protein club, a movement helping Indians hit real world nutrition goals and build lean muscle without overcomplicating things. He's known for simplifying fitness science, for tracking blood markers and improving metabolism, and teaching busy professionals how to lose fat, gain strength, and stay consistent, even with a vegetarian diet. Dr. Anshul, great to have you on the show.
Yeah, I said thanks for hosting me and glad to join both of you in discussing real world science.
Great. So let's start with your journey. So, Dr. Anshul, you're a doctor who turned to coaching. What pushed you to move from treating patients to actually helping people transform their health through nutrition and habits?
Yeah, so right now I'm also interning at Goa Medical College. So technically, I do work in the hospital, and also I see a lot of patients in the hospital coming for diabetes, high blood pressure, and there's a long line, in the medicines corner that we have in the pharmacy. This most of these people are looking for diabetes and insulin syringes and some things that could have been avoidable if lifestyle modification was taught these people, and that's what I want to spread knowledge about. Right now, I am working in the surgery department, and even there, you'll see a lot of diabetic foot ulcers, and people have to go for amputation and all sorts of other issues that they are facing because of the root cause is lifestyle modification. He could have been more active, could have here had a higher protein sources, could have switched to a low saturated fat diet. All these things could have happened, but somewhere down the line, the knowledge gap exists, and that's when uh, I started, putting out some good educational content on X. And yes, I also do train individuals looking to lose their belly fat and build muscle mass. I've been doing this for the last 7 years, and since last 3 years, I've started coaching. And coaching has taught me more than more than just giving knowledge. It is about making people understand why they're doing X or why they're doing Y. So that's the real motive behind the patients in the hospital, and also the fact that you can help them out by giving them some good knowledge about the nutrition, about diet, exercise, sleep. And I think that would reduce the workload on the hospitals. It would be a better environment for all of us.
Right. So, what is the motivation behind the 100 gram protein club you are running?
Yeah, so it's just a awareness campaign, I say, about you would see the news saying that there is 70% of India's population is protein deficient. And actually, you don't even have to believe that number. If you just look at the common households, the food eating patterns, you will realize that they have alienated the concept of eating protein. And the whole controversy started with the post that I had put up. I just put a post up saying that if you eat 100-gram protein, you exercise daily, and then you should be like attractive and healthy. And so the backlash was there on the post for the reason being attractive. They were questioning the fact that how can you call yourself attractive. But I think somewhere down the line we channelized it into a very positive movement where now people are associating themselves with this 100-gram protein club that I've started. It's just people sharing their meals, how they're able to reach 200 gram. It's not that everybody should be hitting 100-gram protein. It's just the fact that it's like I would say a tag where you try to reach towards 100-gram protein. Because if my audience is clearly people who are struggling with belly fat, have an office job, and so they are probably in the weight range of 70 kg, 70 to 80 kgs, looking to come down. For them, if you're building significant muscle mass, then you should have a high protein diet, and 100 grams is like the bare minimum for a serious individual looking to build muscle mass. So that's where the audience is specific. The program, the movement is very specific. It's not, if you're not fitting into the movement, it's completely fine, but at least eat your protein. Somewhere the awareness should be there, and that's where I started this movement, and it's been picking up good. We've got good around 1,000 members on the community within the last 4 weeks, and everybody's sharing their meals, which is great.
Where do we buy the T-shirt?
So yeah, so I'm working with a very small distributor. If you do both of you, sign up, I will definitely send the t-shirts across. So it's just a completely modified cotton t-shirt that I try to wear and try to create the awareness. So I'll
Right.
definitely share some with you.
So, one of the interesting things I have noted is that you speak a lot of evidence-based medicine, nutrition. You keep it 100% evidence-based. But why do you think you face a backlash from doctor community, right? That shouldn't
Yeah.
be the case. Why? It doesn't make sense, but
Yeah.
it does happen. Why?
So there are two ways of looking at it. One is that you say that there is a big pharma mafia, and the kind of things that the kind of people who are not very knowledgeable or people who can be easily manipulated. They will agree to that, saying that these people are backlashing because their business is at risk, or they're saying don't eat XYZ, let's say very high cholesterol foods or keto diets because they want you to be on these medications. So there's one school of thought which says that doctors are trying to propagate the pharma, and there's another school of thought which is a very old school of thought. It's uh, so basically I understand that MBBS is not a degree which will teach you how to balance your food or get fit. So sometimes when somebody in the younger generation is trying to learn new things up, like he's trying to propagate maybe protein or healthy eating, exercise, somewhere I think they it comes as I would say it attacks their ego, where they feel that how can somebody be so young and try to propagate these things. We've been there, we've seen so many patients, and these things don't work. So it's both of the school of thoughts. One is the pharma, one is the, I think, the people who don't want Indians or even the patients to figure out that there is a nutritional way of building a healthy diet or healthy body, and they don't want to do that. And the other there's another school of thought which just doesn't want the Indians to learn about new things like maybe protein or maybe a high fiber diet, and they just try to show any backlash to any irrelevant issues, which may not even be regarding to what I'm trying to say. It might be attacking me personally. And I've seen that there have been so many doctors who have gone against me and trying to it's ad hominem. It's like they don't even attack your ideology, they will directly attack you. So I think it's important for people to understand that whom they're following, why they're following. Are people changing their views? I have changed my views on a couple of things, and I think if you're mature enough, then you realize that science is ever evolving, and so your takes might not be same 3 years later if the scientific study proves otherwise. So we have to be very careful when we are following people online, and that's the reasoning I think behind why they face so much backlash.
Right. So, I think one of the things I've been hearing a lot is that they say doctors have probably like around 4 hours or 5 hours of nutrition education, right? So, does like has your nutrition journey being separate from your MBBS journey? Like you had to learn all this separately?
Yeah, definitely. So in MBBS, right, there's a first year, three subjects are there, and in one of them is biochemistry. Now, biochemistry, you cannot pass that subject without mugging up the metabolisms. There are cycles, right? You have to mug them up. You must know the very specific, like Leishman deficiency and all these things, very specific things. But to a common man, that is not very applicable. He doesn't want to know about protein metabolism, carbohydrate metabolism. He just wants to know how he can lose weight and get healthier. So uh, in biochemistry they just teach you the metabolic cycles, maybe some vitamins, minerals deficiencies, how to know them, how to see in a person whether he's having a B9 B12 deficiency, or alcoholics mostly have the B1 deficiency. So these things are very, I would say, specific to patients. It's not to the general public. And so I had to learn this by myself. First of all, I had to experiment it on myself whether these things work. And once I understood that these things do give results, and there are some scientific studies. In PSM is a subject where they will teach you how to read scientific studies. There are levels of evidence based studies, right? So there is some connection there, but it's not enough to tell a person, to give a person a diet plan or to give a person a nutrition based evidence based studies. It's not enough. And so I think if you are in this field, you need to really spend some time outside reading resources. Maybe Twitter is great. You can also go through PubMed. You can take some scientific courses regarding how to read these studies. or basic nutrition programming should be there available to all those doctors. But unfortunately, it's not the case right now.
Yeah, and I'm sure AI makes things much easier these days.
Yep. I think AI is doing great. AI is doing great. And so I think more of it is just understanding what that AI is telling you, whether it is fit for you or not, because AI gives you generalized information. Somebody living in Goa or somebody living in Mumbai will have some specific food items you would consume on a daily basis. And you cannot tell to eat quinoa because it's maybe a veg protein source, but it's not available or it's not there in the, wherever they're living. So based on that I feel AI will give you good set of recommendations. Up to you how to understand that and then use it for your own good.
S- So, doctor, the RDA for protein is usually zero point 0.8 grams per kilo per day.
Yeah.
So, what do you think is the ideal grammage of protein you need in order to stay healthy?
So I think if an individual is not above 100 kgs or maybe very heavy on 120 plus kgs, then he will have to look at the lean body mass kind of understanding of that and then calculate as per LBM. But if he's somebody who's, let's say, 70 to 80 kgs, then 1 gram per kg of your body weight to 1.5 gram per kg of your body weight is bare minimum. Like you need to consume that much amount of protein because it will keep you, satiated, not keep you hunger pangs, and everything will be avoidable. And secondly, it will help you build muscle. So irrespective of whether you are training or not, you will build muscle if you increase your protein intake. That is something that most people don't understand. And if you start with something very new, like let's say you start a business or anything else, you are going to face some challenges. Similarly, when you start a new diet plan or you start increasing protein intake, you will face some challenges, and that's what most Indians can't keep up with. They are like, we started with this plan, but then I faced bloating issues. I mean, like, what did you expect? You're trying to do something which is different from what you've been following. Why are you trying to do that? Because scientific studies say that this helps you lose belly fat or whatever it is. So people have to understand that when you start increasing your protein intake, you start a different diet plans. Similarly, as you move to a new city or you start a new job, it's going to be difficult, but it gets easier as you go forward.
Absolutely. Let's talk about some myths which keep people away from consuming the right amount of protein. For example, kidney health and increased intake of protein. So, what is the right understanding behind this?
Yeah, so I think there was this study by Dr. Harry Brenner in the late 1950s where he mentioned that consuming protein can cause kidney damage. But if you're a individual who doesn't have any of these conditions, let's say chronic kidney disease or has a family history of kidney disease, then you don't have to really worry about protein causing damage to your kidneys, right? Again, it's the studies today which even on chronic kidney disease patients have shown that 1 gram per kg of your body weight is completely fine. So that is the study point of view. Now some doctors will have their own point of view. We cannot contest that. It's a completely their way of looking at the study and having their personal bias. Cannot help with that. But what the studies are saying is that chronic kidney disease patients 1 gram per kg of your body weight. In fact, in the end stage liver disease patients, these are patients who are let's say they are consuming alcohol 15-16 years. Even in them, at the last stage, the protein intake is 0.8 gram per kg of your body weight. That is because that if a person is losing so much muscle mass, it's actually bad for his glucose metabolism as well. It'll spike glucose and it'll be bad for his overall health. So even in those patients, 0.8 gram per kg of your body weight. If the study is in Nature, you can definitely find it out. And so I think that's a big myth. It's not really required that we're not saying you can increase your protein intake to 200 grams or 150 grams. Just saying that bare minimum 100-gram protein would actually make you feel better. So that's the understanding behind the protein and kidney thing.
Right. And another misconception that you can only absorb 30 grams of protein in like one meal sitting.
Yeah.
What is your
Yeah,
thought?
so then Brad Schoenfeld and his people had done a study recently. It's published in Nature, where they themselves don't know what is the upper a certain level that you can absorb protein. So they say that it is not. They don't know. It might be 50 gram, 100 gram. It could be anything. So the study that they had conducted was they were comparing 25-gram protein versus 100-gram protein, and this study I covered in a detailed video on Twitter as well. and they found out that the 100-gram protein people, so now this is 100 gram in a single meal, which I don't recommend, but the participants were put on this, and they found a better muscle protein synthesis response. They found that there was no wastage of protein. So when they say wastage of protein, it's amino acid oxidation. They are not talking about using those amino acids for protein building. There was no amino acid oxidation. Now, does this mean that you should be consuming 100 grams of protein every single meal? It's quite impossible to do that. And that's why I say that you're not wasting any protein when you're consuming it. You could be, I would say, my recommendation is 40, 40, 40. And this was also given by Don Laneman, who's like the father of protein studies in the West. So 40-gram protein in a meal, which I generally say for my breakfast, is the best way to get started, and then 40 and 40. So that's how you reach around 120-gram protein. So that study is there on Nature. I've also covered it in detail. 30-gram protein, 50-gram protein, we don't know the upper limit, but you're safe whether you're consuming for 40-gram or 50-gram. I think that number is very good for individual meals.
Right. So another common myth is regarding uric acid. Like this is something I hear a lot. Like people are like,
Yeah.
in fact, it's coming from doctors a lot that somebody has a high uric acid or somebody has an incidence of gout. Instant response or the thing they say is don't have much protein. So I think you explained this in one of your videos for our audience. If you could.
Sure, sure. So yeah, I mean, protein and uric acid. So the people confuse purine metabolism and protein metabolism. So when you are on a high uric acid level, that means you're consuming too many purines, right? So avoiding high purine foods is the option. It is similarly like red meat and other high purine options. But I would say that the question that most people have is that I don't consume red meat. I don't even consume all those high purine options that you said. I still have uric acid levels high. So what does this? So now purines are or uric acid is affected by so many other factors. There is genetics. There is maybe your obesity levels and your current activity levels. So this is such a big vast area of research that nobody can tell you why you are having a uric acid level high despite not consuming the high purine food. So don't confuse eating chicken, because chicken doesn't have high purines. Fish again not very high in purines. Other fruits and vegetables, again not very high in purines. So these are options you can be open up to. There will be some exceptions, I know, and you will have to like see with your doctor. Now again, it's very difficult, right? If you find a doctor who says that whey protein causes a high uric acid level. Now whey protein is a dairy product. Dairy products generally don't increase your uric acid levels. So the informed individual should actually look up at studies, look at the vast literature that is available, and then make an informed opinion. Sometimes even the doctors may not know it, and they will tell you stop consuming eggs, stop consuming dairy products. It will show, but generally that's not the case. And this issue is happening more commonly in vegetarians these days. I'm seeing in the hospitals as well. They come with uric acid levels high despite not consuming any of these foods. So it's more lifestyle modification also which plays a role, genetics and obesity. So you have to fix all of these before blaming chicken breast or whey protein for your high uric acid levels.
Right. So this makes for an interesting, like you mentioned, people should read studies, but uh, how does one get educated? Like, how does the average person, let's say without a science background, how does he get educated in all this? Like, he probably depends on these WhatsApp forwards, Instagram reels, YouTubes, and all that stuff. So uh, there's so much confusion, right? Even among the smart people, there is so much confusion whether you should go for a low fat diet, low carb diet. So how does the average person get informed about everything?
I think there are many school of thoughts to approach a weight loss problem. Low carb is definitely a good tool. Calorie deficit is the ultimate tool to use that. What sets right with your diet? What sets right with your blood reports? What is good for you to maintain on a daily lifestyle? That is the best approach that people should adopt. Instead of jumping from diet plan to diet plan, just go with one simple plan that you can repeat for a very long time. And when it comes to following people online, then you should also do a research on whether as I said, people change their views, people apologize when they make a mistake. Is somebody who's just doing ad hominem attack. So I always tell my audience that there are fallacies, there are 7 logical fallacies which are commonly used by people to I would say deconstruct some kind of evidence. One is ad hominem, they will just attack the person. Secondly, there are strawman arguments. They use the argument and then they say that you've sent something completely different. So I encourage them to go and see the logical fallacies. And if somebody is using that and defending his argument, unfollow that and understand that that's not a very reliable person. So again, many people quote a lot of studies, but those studies have no ground real application. So it's a very difficult part for somebody who's completely new to this field, and that's when you should start reading about people who you follow. It shouldn't be that somebody is just promoting low carb as the only way to live a healthier life. What if somebody wants to have sweets on Diwali? Does that mean that you also avoid family functions, you sacrifice with your family gatherings? It doesn't mean. So I think that's the approach that most people should follow. They should do their research, because it can be misleading, it can be dangerously misleading, and it can cause a variety of issues. If you're seeing like something like I recently heard something where Alzheimer's, autism, and everything is because you are eating a very high carb diet. So there could be evidence based on some kind of research groups. That doesn't generalize it. You cannot say that if you consume tomorrow, let's say high carbs, that means you will end up with these conditions. And there are very dangerous groups on Twitter which are saying that you can cure thyroid, autoimmune, cancer to the extent with the low carb diet. So do you really think that's the case? And you should make an informed opinion. That's what I hope people do.
Right. So coming back to the protein discussion, I think another problem which Indians face is that a lot of things which they think as protein, like we consider uh, lentils and a lot of other peanuts. Peanuts are sort of protein, but yeah, like we consider a lot of stuff as protein, which are actually not protein.
Yeah.
So, like, what is your this thing for a protein? Like, what do you consider as a protein source?
Yeah. So first is like, let's take up example of somebody who's looking to lose weight, right? So then in that case, protein to calorie ratio is very important. Like you should understand that, okay, even vada pav or whatever has protein, but is it high in calories and is a more calorie dense source or carb source than protein? So people have to understand there are primary protein sources and secondary protein sources. Primary protein sources are, as we described, eggs, whey, meat, red meat or low fat paneer, tofu. These are the kind of sources. And then there's a secondary protein source, which is like dal, and all those other ones which are very like sattu. Like this is very, very common among vegetarians. So making a chart of primary and secondary protein sources will help you understand that primary protein sources are those which are higher in protein, lower in calories, lower in saturated fat, lower in yeah, these are the three most important things. And secondary ones are, they are more of a carb source than a protein source. And doesn't mean that you don't have secondary protein sources. You can always have two secondary protein sources and then match it up. But again, you're looking to lose weight, so that means your overall calories should be lower. If you maintain that, well and good. There's another concept of having leucine. So your each protein meal should have approximately 2 grams per leucine. If you hit that target, it's good for muscle protein synthesis. That's what studies say. So these are some of the important things that you should look out on the labels. And when somebody says that peanuts is a high protein source, well, peanuts 100 gram will give you 600 calories, right? The saturated fat is also very high. So you make an informed decision. Again, spend some time rather than just buying some random. I think today the protein things are very easily marketed. Like anything is protein. Like you put a label on Zomato where they have this high protein thing. So even in those sources, I don't find a lot of protein. I think it's more of marketing that they are doing. They should be doing like giving you the calories and protein. That would make more sense.
So, if I'm not wrong, I think if anything has any product has 10% of the RDA protein requirements in 100 grams. So I think they consider it as 54 grams RDA or something of that for an average. So if per 100 grams it is having 5.4 grams of protein, I think they can legally label it as protein products. So I think that's how it goes.
I think that's the regulations.
Right.
Again, but I would still say, ordering a high protein source from outside is better. Just cook some eggs at home, have a yogurt, and or hunk curd or whatever it is, and just hit your protein intake rather than relying on outside food sources.
Like, can you give a number as to like say, let's say 70% high quality protein, 30% can be your secondary sources. Is there a number you?
I generally don't consider secondary protein sources that much in my diet plans. I consider them as carb sources. So for me, if you're hitting eggs, whey, yogurt, low fat paneer, tofu, meat, if you just focus on these items for your protein and you try and hit, let's say, five sources in your daily week, I think it's more than
Right.
enough. You don't have to complicate whether this is I hit 60% from here, 40% from here. That makes it a whole thing. Just focus on the primary protein sources for your protein. Secondary protein sources can be dal, chawal. That's a good analogy that people use. So
Right.
I don't really have some numbers regarding.
So if you if you ask somebody to have 100 grams protein, that means it's expected to be from primary sources.
Yeah, primary sources mostly. And if on days where they cannot have it, then obviously some dal chawal or some other proteins, other I've seen new things like I think the quinoa, kind of, again, very not very high protein but still calorie dense. These sources can be adjusted, but I would still stick to the first 5 6 I mentioned, again, for the leucine content, for the low calorie content, the better satiety levels. All these sources make it the best way to hit your protein.
Right. So just before I hand over to Kunal, my another question is regarding fiber, right? Like something which we, since you mentioned about satiety, I think something that goes along with protein in context of satiety is fiber. And I, at least from my experience, know that people like undereat fiber, just like protein. This is like a major thing. So what is your take on this?
Fiber, definitely. Even I think because what happens is mostly uh, when I work with clients, it's mostly people who are going to the office and stuff. And even me, I genuinely don't think I hit my daily fiber intake, just because I'm traveling so much that ordering these things outside would make it more oily rather than fiber rich. So fiber, 25 grams of fiber, I think, is the requirement daily. And I think most people, including me, are not able to hit that because of variety of reasons. But again, there are so many schools of thoughts for this. And I think fiber, when you're increasing protein, you must increase your fiber, otherwise you will face constipation, you will face other sorts of issues. And even your blood glucose stabilization works well with protein and fiber. So fiber, I think everybody should be having fruits and vegetables. I keep promoting guava as the number one fruit for uh, fiber. It is among the highest among the fruits. But I think only relying on one source for fiber is also not good. Variety of sources, healthy microbiome, as they say, gut microbiome, it has different colors of vegetables and fruits, and that diversity is more important than just sticking to one fiber source. So I think, yeah, we're not talking too much about fiber. I think somebody should really take up that movement and speak about it, because
We should start a we should start a 25-gram fiber club.
yeah, it should happen, because I think more people are also struggling with that. And
Right.
they are thinking something is fiber rich, but it's very high in oil or very high in ghee, and then they are saying that they are hitting their fiber intake, which is counterproductive.
Right. Kunal.
So I wanted to ask you about all these new drugs like GLP-1 agonists and all. So I know that most of us promote like long-term sustainable habits like hitting your protein targets, getting fiber, working out, strength training, etc. But there's this whole new trend about GLP-1 agonists. So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, see, this, I don't have any negative comments about people, using those drugs if they are working with a registered physician and he's monitoring the way they are consuming these drugs. I have no issues with that. Problem is when people just take it up on themselves to consume these drugs, and we've seen good results. I think a lot of doctors are using this with their patients. And I think liver doctor recently, he said that some of his patients have been on these drugs and faced good results. Now, the long-term studies obviously have not come to, conclusive, because it's just a recent phenomenon. So we need more information about it. I will not make any comments without looking at the evidence-based studies, which will, be probably published, say, 5 6 years later. But if you are using it, consult a doctor, monitor your intake, and see if that really messes up with your schedule or is actually giving you good results. And if it is, then it's might as well good, because obesity is now considered a disease by the WHO, and all the recognized organizations, they consider it as a proper disease. And for a disease, there will be always lifestyle modification, and there will always be drug treatments. So if its lifestyle modification is not possible in somebody, then of course he will have to go for an intervention based drug, and these drugs will do great for people who are not able to do their lifestyle modification. So it's again, obesity is such a big term that there is behavioral, there is a constraints financial, or there's a mental aspect to it as well. So you cannot just call somebody obese because he's not, for the lack of willpower. People always say that it is lack of willpower. For a large segment of society, I would say it is a lack of willpower, but there is a certain population, and that population is rising today, and we need a drug intervention for that. If you're working with a physician, might as well go for it and try it out for yourself.
Right. So looking at other practical ways to lose weight, some people they are interested in doing intermittent fasting or some kind of like walking activities. So what are your thoughts apart from nutrition and strength training? What are the other easily accessible methods for someone to incorporate?
Intermittent fasting, keto dieting, all these principles, they will tell you eat more of, eat in a window or eat more of, let's say, protein. But in the end, it is just they are fundamentally changing the calories in and out equation. And so that is why they're achieving their result. So for me, calorie deficit works the best because I'm not somebody who will just tell you eat protein or, just don't go vegan because you have to lose weight. There are so many ways. If you eat less food and you burn more calories, maybe by walking, by resistance training, and by fixing your sleep cycle as well, then it is going to be massively easy to lose weight. And in India, most people, they are going low carb and they're trying these things out, but then finally they end up with a skinny fat physique. And that skinny fat physique is like, they have a belly, and that is also a sign of inflammation. Like belly fat, visceral fat especially, it releases so many cytokines that can be inflammatory products throughout your body, and that will cause havoc. So I always suggest people that you're losing weight, build muscle, otherwise you'll look skinny fat. And it's not ideal, it's not aesthetically pleasing, secondly it's not metabolically healthy. So include resistance training, include walking, cardio activities. People think that I just promote lifting weights. Well, I do a lot of running. I do 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers under super time limit. So if you're somebody who's like really focusing on health, don't only go lifting weights, don't only go low carb. Health is a complete spectrum, and so if you cover that whole thing, then you will not have to worry about calories at the end of the day. And that is the freedom of having muscle mass, maybe resistance training, cardio, combat activities, some skills which require resistance or muscle mass. Then you include all of this, then counting calories doesn't have to be that difficult, right? So that's the freedom I want Indians to unlock.
Definitely. Definitely good to have a lot of options because not everyone is not the same and options do matter. So if someone listening to this podcast wants to start tomorrow to start losing weight or get on a fitness journey, what are two, three things you will recommend for them to start with?
Yeah. So first things is you should understand where you are currently, what lifestyle you really currently follow, and then start making small changes to this. Don't go all in calorie deficit, resistance training, cardio, sleeping 7 hours, drinking 3-4 liters. When you do all this once, you're going to fall in 3 weeks time. But if you just say this week I will increase my protein intake to 100 grams, next week I will start, walking 10,000 steps. Then after that I will include resistance training. So step by step approach is always good. And before doing all of this, by the way, just get a blood report and check where you are. And if you find and take that blood report, show it to your doctor, and then start with any of the activities. Because today people are facing issues not because they have joined the gym, but they have joined the gym along with a very high triglyceride, high cholesterol, HbA1c high. And when you suddenly start increasing activity, then it's bound to cause problems. So first get your blood test checked with your doctor, then go and start your fitness journey. And a step by step approach is better rather than going all in.
Absolutely. Dev, okay. Just a follow-up question. So since we talked about these chronic diseases right now, so someone who's healthy versus someone who's suffering from a bad, like a blood report, there's high triglycerides, high HbA1c. So what would be the difference in the approach when suggesting a plan to these people?
Yeah, I mean, it's important because see, if you have, let's say, high diabetes, you're 8 or 9 on the HbA1c, your cholesterol is through the roof, and it is at sitting at say 350 or 400. Then your approach will be you'll have to select sources which are also again low in saturated fat or with low glycemic index. That's where everything changes metabolically. And so that's why I say that first get a blood report, check it with your doctor, work with a nutritionist or a dietitian, and then along with a weight training coach. That is the best approach for somebody who's seriously on the border with diabetes, cholesterol, and other metabolic problems. Insulin resistance, again, something which comes up when you do your HOMA IR test. Fasting insulin, again, which is important. So a lot of problems come up when you see the blood report. Most people in India are not doing that. So first encourage them to do that, and then check with your nutritionist, dietitian, what sources are good for you. Maybe you're very high on uric acid, then those sources will not be great for you. High fructose corn syrup, anyway, that's not applicable to Indians, but it could be a problem if you're abroad or something like that. So yeah, firstly get a blood report, get it checked, and then approach very very slowly. Don't go all in. Start maybe with, as I said, protein intake can be something, the first thing you can work on. Walking, resistance training, and then maintaining this lifestyle for a very long time, because you might have started low carb. How long can you follow it? Can you follow it for like 1 year? I think low carb can be followed as long as you're determined. And then you just fall off. There is Diwali, there is Christmas, there is New Year, and so many festivals in India. So is that the right approach? I don't think so. So that's my individualistic review, but if it's working for you, that's great.
Right. So, I think you mentioned about saturated fats a couple of times, right? So I think, like, why is there a confusion, at least among some people, that saturated fats might not be bad for you? And the argument that you often bring up is that, look at our ancestors; they always used to have animal fat. They used to have coconut oil and all that stuff. So clear up? Can you clear up this confusion regarding saturated fats?
Yeah, I mean, it has been shown in Mendelian randomized control trials that LDL is causal to atherosclerosis, right? So that means that if you have a higher LDL level, which is not good at all. And now people will say, you check your ApoB levels. Again, ApoB is similar to LDL, only you're just checking a very advanced marker of LDL. The thing is that it's a very individualistic response. So somebody consuming 10 eggs a day, or let's say lots of saturated fat, still having a low cholesterol level, or a cholesterol level that has yet not affected his heart health, will make claims about having high cholesterol. I have 700 cholesterol and I'm still living healthier. I think again it is genetic responses, it is your lifestyle. He's also having a high active lifestyle, lifting weights, walking, running, marathons, maybe some of these activities. You really cannot copy anybody's diet today, especially if that is higher in cholesterol, because Indians are predisposed, I would say, to a lot of these conditions. You look at the BMI recommendations for South Asians, is also there is a new category which is I think around 22.5 or something, which is overweight, which is specifically created for South Asians. So we are predisposed to, I would say, a lot of heart conditions. And if cholesterol is showing up in your profile, especially LDL, it's a good time to consider medication along with lifestyle modification. It's not only one approach. And there are, again, as I said, anecdotal fallacy is another fallacy which is very commonly used. They tell you, people on the Twitter, that my cholesterol is 500 but I'm not facing any issues. Well, somebody has died with a 500 cholesterol level, so that also is a case that you should consider. And don't be so I would say just brainwashed by some claims. Somebody's making a claim, you just look at that, because in the health industry especially, it's very easy to take up any health advice, because you see that a person has followed XYZ, got results, you follow that, doesn't work for you. Well, because we both are different, right? So again, I would say first read up all these fallacies where people are making claims. Read what they're trying to say. Read behind the lines. You're making an investment in your health. If you make a mistake here, it's going to not only cost you, cost your family, and it's going to create a havoc. It's not like a financial decision also creates havoc, but this is a health decision. You don't come back from this. So it's important for you to understand this and see that it is an individual response. That's why I say that anybody asking me how many eggs we can eat a day, I really don't know the answer. what if you are a hyper responder to this cholesterol? Could be possible. And if your cholesterol shoots up in the next 3 months by consuming 6 eggs a day, and still you don't find any issues, then that's good for you. But if you find issues, then you're going to blame someone. That's why I try to be very nuanced when I make recommendations. But around protein, I think it's very clear. You know, eat a low saturated fat diet, 100-gram protein. It's not going to cause a lot of issues.
Right. So, like, what do you think is going wrong with Indians as far as other than the genetic susceptibility?
Yeah, I think it's a couple of things. It's I think the roads outside are not making you, encouraging you to walk. And
Right.
I think as the FSSI, you've seen the recent ORSL kind of controversy. Again, they are not very stringent in their actions. Street food is lots consumed by Indians, and they feel it is completely fine because it's just affordable to most of the Indians. So there are a lot of issues with respect to, I would say, structurally, socially, which is stopping Indians from doing some activity, because everybody knows that they have to do XYZ, calorie deficit, weight training. There are barriers that have been created by Indians among themselves, and so they are fighting among those barriers only to come out of that old, zero protein, high carbohydrate diet, switching to something new. And that switch making is important. Unless you don't realize it, you will struggle with obesity, you will struggle with all kinds of issues. So instead of blaming people for it, you can also work out at home. You can also cook food by yourself. You can also make some decisions by yourself, because most decisions for people in Indian societies are already made, and they are just following those decisions because their ancestors ate ghee 30 spoons of ghee every day. So try to come out of this race where people are just forcing you to go on that one pedestal, you're on this pedestal where it's going to be fine, it's not going to affect me. But one day when it hits you, and then the bills of the hospital, reach your home, that's when it hits that really, the I've seen patients in the hospital, and I think if somebody had told them 20 years back about all these things, it could have avoided. Maybe some might still come to the hospital, but it could have been a much better situation, much less workload on the hospitals, much less workload on the doctors. And lifestyle modification was that one thing that they were not exposed to. So right now we are in a good ecosystem. Everybody is promoting exercise, everybody is promoting healthy eating. I see a lot of posts on Twitter. I see your posts, long posts, which cover everything, do's, don'ts, disclaimers. Very important that you put it up there. So start getting involved in that ecosystem. It's going to only make you feel better, make you feel better. Not only people think that it's just a health decision. Well, your productivity increases. The way you are on camera, you look better. You feel confident. And so it's a I would say myriad of things that could be done just by unlocking a very good diet. So that's the
Right.
category.
So, from a doctor's perspective, right? Like, I think one of the challenges which doctors face, or this is a criticism for doctors, is that they don't take time with the patient, and I don't think it is practically possible to, given the patient load. So, what do you think is the solution to this? Like, it cannot be just 2 minutes of talk and prescribing meds, right? So, what do you think is practical?
So right now I was in the medicine department, and so what happens is when the patient comes with a high diabetes level, they firstly check their glucose, fasting, postprandial, everything is done. Then they refer them to a nutritionist who is there in the hospital. So I think that problem is already been taken care of. But what I feel is that these patients consider doctors as the first. Their advice comes at the top. So whenever they listen to the nutritionist, also might take it very lightly. But if the doctor tells them, yeah, you should eat this, you should avoid this, this is like your, then they are, 10x more times ready to accept that advice. Right. So it's not possible, to be honest. The any doctor will not spend more than so much time on a diet plan or something. But if in that small period of time, if the patient sees that a doctor is so fit, that the doctor is very he's going to the gym, you can see it on there. Somebody who's fit, you completely understand how they are transformed. So I think the doctors being fit would be making a big difference. But again, that is again questionable, looking at the the resident duties. I have myself have a duty on Thursday which will be lasting for 36 hours. So I know that it is difficult. It is horrible working conditions in India. And I don't know if it's going to change, because again, the workload is too much. It's that the patient care in an OPD setup, it is 150 patients every day that you have to see. In that time, how can you spend, even let's say spending 3 minutes extra on a patient to tell him that protein, this, that, it'll take so much time, and then the OPD might close in the night. So that's really not possible. So there are, I think that somewhere down the line, I think the education platforms that we are creating should educate people enough to make their health choices. And finally, doctors, if they get more time for their health, it will be great. I see a lot of doctors who are in their 40s now, like Dr. Sudhir Kumar. He's promoting health, but would he be doing the same thing when he was at 27 or 28? It was difficult for him, and that's why there is a transformation picture. What we are trying to say is that when you're 27, 28 as a Indian medical doctor, if you could promote this health, and even yourself try and make some decisions, it would create a drastic impact on the patient care. So
Right.
that's where we want to get to.
I feel Indians would take somebody with a gray hair more seriously.
That is also, yeah, that's also a school of thought people might agree to. But there are so many good doctors right now. They are young and they're promoting healthy eating, and I think they should be flag bearers of this complete protein movement or a healthy diet movement. So that's important.
Right. And one observation from my part is that a lot of the metabolic illnesses have gone shifted to a younger demographic, right? The kids were safe from this for a long time, but at least in the last 10 years, from my observation, there is like fatty liver and obesity has increased. So, what do you think is going wrong here? Is it just the parents' eating habits or something else?
So the recent guidelines that I saw from, I think, the Endocrinology Society, or I think the Health Ministry, was that the Indian children are facing such a calamity with respect to obesity and all this junk food that people are consuming. And somewhere down the line, I feel the parents are responsible, because I see that today, even if you see somebody crying as a child, they just hand him the phone, or they give him something to eat which is very sweet. These kind of habits are result of poor parenting. I completely disagree with a lot of other people saying that it is the state of the parents as well. I think when we were we were growing up. I was, I think, growing up. I was never very exposed to these kind of things. Today, people are, and so the easiest way to indulge a child is to give him the phone or to give him some sweets, both of which are very bad for his health. We work with pediatric. I was in the pediatric department last month, and there are so many PNRCs. These are small places where autistic children are coming, and they are also spending time. And so we see that even there, parents are not very receptive to their children, where they require their attention more than that phone. And if parents themselves are eating outside food, not exercising, then what precedent does it set for their children, right? And we are in a calamity with respect to, I think, childhood obesity and all those guidelines. I think it's coming, it's showing up more often when you see the in people in the hospital. I see so many people right now in the pediatric departments. It's a lifestyle modification that they are not able to do, and it's not because it's not their fault. It's actually the parents who are like giving them the phone, or providing them whatever, that cold drink and all thing, which is not good for their health. So somewhere down the line, we are my platform or your platform is educating people who are about 25, who are going to be parents. Maybe they make the best decisions, and try to increase the awareness around this whole healthy environment that we're trying to do. So that's my message to these people, that don't take it for granted. I think there was this recent study where sugar intake in the earlier years of children is very harmful for their brain health. So that is also, that's also something that people should consider.
Right. Kunal?
Right. So I wanted to, like, we spoke about social media, X. It's a great place where you get a lot of information, but like you said, it depends on who you're following, etc. So is there a particular pattern you have observed in some influencers, especially on X? Like, they use a lot of fear mongering about a particular macro, like carbs or any fiber is bad for you. So what is your suggestion for the audience? Like, how to choose the right influencer and the right person to follow?
Yeah, I mean, there are self certification courses that people are today, because it's very easy. It's very It's a gray zone, and you can do anything you want with respect to health. When it comes to these things, first you need to understand, as I said, people make mistakes. Are they are coming forward for their mistakes, or is there a cult group that just keeps going and attacks people? Ad hominem attacks, anecdotal fallacies, survivorship bias, strawman arguments. When you see all these four things, what I just said, and you go and see a YouTube video on this, and then you see it actually play out in front of you, you'll be mind blown that these people are actually cult groups using these things to promote their service. So that's why I say, these fallacies are very common. You need to do your research, otherwise you will get fooled. Anything which is promoted, or people are saying that this will fix you completely, I never say that. I just tell you that, follow these things, these three, four things. They might make you feel better, and finally you might feel more, I would say, more able to do the stuff you were not able to. For example, going for a walk or something like that. Don't follow cult groups. Cult groups come, they attack, they don't have any scientific backing, they make up their own studies, and it's probably the quick results that fool people. Like, you go on a low carb diet, you get quick results. What you don't understand, it is actually glycogen and water that is lost from your body and not actual fat. How do you know that? Well, you need to research about these things rather than just take somebody's word for it. Don't take my word, don't even take Kunal's word, don't take Dave's word as well. Don't take any of our words. You go and see whether what we are talking about has been studied for so much time, and has it been replicated by a lot of people, and have they followed them up, and have they seen the same results. Very important. Reproducible, repeatable results are more important than anecdotal fallacies of somebody who lived 100 years ago. So you will see this play out, because I've seen those cult groups are only tweeting amongst themselves. It's the same, yes, I did it, yes, you did it, and yes, we all together did it. But beyond that, it's not validated. And if it's not validated, then you should be careful enough, because it's very easy to fool somebody who is 50 years old and who is struggling with obesity, with a low carb kind of diet, and see, tell him, look, 3 months may you lost 10-15 kgs. At the end of the year, he's back again at 20 kgs weight again, because he could not follow it, right? So I
Absolutely.
generally don't like to just try to dissemble the, I would say, the nutritional aspect of it without creating any huss about their business model. But you will find it's very clear where people are they educating or are they promoting. There is a very fine line between that. And if you are educated enough, you understand the fallacies, you will make these points very clear.
Yeah, and just a couple of more questions. One is on supplements. There's a huge supplements market now, and there's a huge push to incorporate micronutrients, etc., minerals in your diet. So your take on that, and also uh, like uh, as a doctor come health coach, where do you draw the line between, okay, this part of the journey, someone's health journey can be handed over to a coach, but there is a line which needs to be drawn and a doctor needs to be involved?
Okay. So I think supplements, if you are having a good diet plan, then I don't think that you need a lot of supplements. Look, I think even the vitamin D, yesterday somebody had put a post up in our community group where they were asking about how much vitamin D should be consumed, or my levels are 19. So the latest endocrinology guidelines again say that there are four empirical groups that the supplementation would be advised in. Now, it's very nuanced when it comes to supplements, because again, it is very individualistic. You cannot really say that, because some of the studies, I will say, are done in sedentary populations, and somebody like me who's not sedentary, who works out, boxing, this and that, may require a higher level of certain amount of supplements. So again, very important to work with a nutritionist to decide whether this thing actually is required or not. Few of the supplements which are my recommendations purely based because you're deficient, not because you need it. So one is whey protein. If you're not able to hit your protein intake, whey protein, studied well, made from milk, good. Creatine monohydrate, again, very well studied. And the latest 2025 randomized control trial also burst the myth about hair loss and creatine. Beyond this, then D3 comes, and K2, and these three, all these things comes. But I think, again, if you are really very active individual, and you think that because of I'm facing hair loss, I'm feeling fatigue, I'm having muscle cramps, maybe that time supplementation in accordance with your doctor and nutritionist, a good recommendation would help. But by all means, just because you feel you're deficient, don't go and pick it up over the counter. Very fine line again. And so again, there is more research which is required, nuanced approach. So I cannot tell you that whether you should be on D3 or not. If I'm your coach, I know how much your activity levels are, your diet, how much is your diet sufficient in those vitamins and minerals, then I can make a decision. But just because that I'm deficient, I require it. You might have seen the latest endocrinology guidelines. So again, I keep following up this data, but again, it's so nuanced that nobody can tell you yes or not. It's always maybe you just try it out for a few weeks and then see what happens. It could be that approach as well. So other than these two supplements, multivitamins are a complete waste of your time if you are able to have a good diet plan. Not required for you. Other than that, I think other than this, sunlight and all these things can take care of your D and everything else intake. Beyond that, it's just marketing. BCAA is not required for anybody looking to build muscle mass. And even pre-workouts, I think they're very overrated. People are using them because it's a good marketing tool, but most of us don't require a pre-workout. We're just working out in the gym for 30-40 minutes. This is my view on most of the supplements.
Right. So we've come to the end of the podcast. Doctor, any closing message to the audience?
Yeah, I mean, one of the most important is be educated and make informed decisions. Don't rely on anyone, whatever they say. You need to understand that there is always a motive behind something someone is saying, and if there is no motive, then definitely there is a motive. I would say so. You just have to follow the right people advice, use it in your own life, whether it works out or not, and then maybe switch to another plan. Don't keep jumping just because the latest study said this, latest study said that. So first of all, get educated, without which you are going to be fooled in the end. And then fix your diet, because it's the most important thing. And then third is resistance training, which will help you build that muscle mass, confidence, and all. And in the end, I would say that the large fraction of doctors want you to be healthy. And that's the truth. Only some people maybe trying to make you a fool by just trusting in the pharma and everything. Most of us just wanted to get fit and reduce the workload for all of us, and that will actually promote us to become the best economy or the best healthcare nation in the world. By the way, India is doing great in the sense of the diagnostics. So always get a blood report. If you're watching this till now, you should be very you should be excited to get a blood report and understand where you are. I recommend that to everyone. So yeah, this is my closing message. Just follow the basics. Don't keep jumping. You'll get good results.
Well, great. Thanks, Doctor.
Yeah,
Dave?
Yeah, it was a pleasure having you. A lot of discussion on protein. I'm sure we could have another discussion some other time.
sure. Thank you so much for the podcast, and you're both doing a great job. I think this is number 44. So yeah, I think you just restarted the series. So keep going, and we need such nuanced based podcasts that will get both the views out, and it'll create more information and more education for all of us. So well done, and that's great you're doing.
Thanks a lot.
Yep. Thank you so much, Dev. Thank you.